going on, Browns fans? Final day of practice out here in Berea as the Browns are now set to take on the Cincinnati Bengals at Huntington Bank Field on Sunday. It's finally here. The regular season has arrived. And the good news for the Browns right now, Megs, is that the Browns are relatively totally healthy. The only player who out for Sunday to this point is Mike Hall Jr., who's been dealing with that knee issue from last season, had the surgery on it this offseason, working his way back. He obviously passed his physical in time to make the 53-man roster. Just returned to practice on Thursday, and Kevin Stefanski made it clear like it's all part of the plan, but he will not play Sunday. Other than that, though, a healthy Browns team, and it's been a while since we've been able to say something like that, is ready to go. Even at the start of the season, because last year there were some guys banged up that didn't play week one. They're ready to go and going to be out there on Sunday with a lot at their disposal for the first time in quite some time.
Germ, it was like shocking when the injury report popped up yesterday, and it was like, oh my gosh, like there's so many guys. It's week one. Like these guys, you didn't play. No, you guys played one series. There's a handful of them. But it's good to see Myles Garrett back on the field. Obviously, he popped up on the injury report yesterday. But all the guys, it sounds like they're healthy, ready to go. And for the first time in a long time, I want to get your opinion on this because I saw a couple posts on X, and it was along the lines of there's no buzz around this Browns team, and it kind of feels nice that for the first time in a long time, like the storylines outside of like Quinshon Judkins are like kind of on the back burner, and it feels like it can just be about football and this team going out there and trying to win a game that would be massive for them early on in the season.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I do agree that there seems to be sort of a lack of excitement, which is weird for Cleveland because Cleveland loves this team. And generally, fans will talk themselves into why they're going to make the playoffs and all that this time of year and all those things. But what I will say is that I think Sunday will go a long way in bringing a lot of that excitement back if they're able to win, which I know we've talked a little bit about, like why there's reasons the Browns can win this game, the paths to doing that. We'll get into that a little bit more when we do our predictions over the weekend. But I do think like if they win Sunday, it breathes some life into this organization a little bit, into this team a little bit. The team will feed off of it, and you'll start to see the excitement, I think, pick up going into week 2 against a Ravens team that you also know pretty well. So one game at a time, obviously. But speaking of trying to get the win on Sunday, Jim Schwartz on Thursday pointed at the defensive line and sort of, set the tone for them in being this dominant group. He raved about how good they have a chance to be, the fact that they're back to that attacking style and they have the right players in place to play with that attacking style this year, and how excited he is to see them, but that we can't crown them until they go out and do it on the field, which is what they're obviously going to be trying to do on Sunday for the first time. And I do think against this Bengals team, there's a chance that they could absolutely just destroy whatever game plans the Bengals come in with and really make life hard for Joe Burrow, as they've done in the past, and that it is going to kind of start with the interior guys. Like Myles is Myles, he's going to do his thing, we know that. But the interior guys being in that middle part of the defense and going up against the Bengals offensive line, which has some questions as well, getting in and making it difficult for Joe Burrow when Myles is getting double teamed and all those different things is going to be pivotal. And I think that is the number one sort of path to victory. If you're trying to find the path to victory, it always starts with that Browns defensive line being dominant and really throwing Joe Burrow off his game.
Germ, we talked the other day on our last show, kind of about, like, we got deeply into how the Browns can win the football game. And you had mentioned that, hey, the Bengals defense isn't kind of where it needs to be. However, when you have a guy like Trey Hendrickson, they're kind of just waiting for that one play. He makes that strip sack or whatever it is. And it's that one play that changes it and allows the Bengals to win 38-34 or 42-35 or whatever. I think the same is going to be – that's going to be kind of the formula, more so the formula I think that the Browns are going to have to take. And the reason I say that is because the Browns secondary, and this is known, but the Browns secondary is beat up, right? You got Denzel Ward, who always is good against Jamar Chase, and they've had a little back and forth this week. But you typically have paired that with Martin Emerson, who can stand at least next to T. Higgins and be kind of that force. Now that you don't have Martin Emerson on that side, and it's going to be Greg Newsome and a whole host of other Browns, it's going to be really hard to stop them. That leads you to, hey, on the up front, Miles, if you ever get a one-on-one scenario, you got to win, right? You got to make it count. But if he's getting double teamed, then it's the rest of the crew. It's the field, right? It's Miles or the field. And that's Mason Graham. That's the entire interior offensive line pressing the pocket. That's Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire on the outside, making their presence felt. And it's that one play, that one chance you get to get your hand on the football while he's releasing it, or to get that big hit on him, that could flip this thing, because that might be the difference in the football game.
Yeah, 100%. And I've talked about the depth of that secondary being sort of in question now with Martin Emerson Jr. hurt. A lot more relying on Greg Newsome on the outside especially, and he certainly, I think, is excited about that challenge because he's always wanted to play outside. But the easiest way to take some of the pressure off of those guys is that defensive line dominating. And that's why I say all paths to victory in this game for the Browns pretty much start with that defensive line just completely taking Joe Burrow off, or throwing Joe Burrow off to the point where he makes mistakes or he can't run the offense the way that they want to run it, and it gives the Browns a shot to win. Speaking of the defensive line, speaking of their star, Myles Garrett, who you mentioned as well, he talked to the media today, as he tends to do on Fridays during the season, and I thought one thing that was interesting about with the conversation with him centered around the Micah Parsons trade. And he was asked in a really poignant way, like, why did Micah Parsons' situation end in him being traded? Why did your situation end with you coming back? Like, what kind of happened? And he talked about how there was a respect factor there. Like, he didn't want to burn that bridge the same way Micah did. Micah was like sleeping on training tables during the preseason and like eating wings, walking around, telling teams to call him or whatever. Like, Myles didn't want to do that. He went about it a different way, and I just found that interesting, like the dynamics between these two great pass rushers, two of the best players in football, and how their situations turned out totally different. And that Myles kind of spoke on it for the first time and gave some insight into like where he's at, where what I've speculated seemed to be true. Like, he didn't want to burn Cleveland on the way out. You know, he's close with LeBron James, and we know he confided in him when he was going through that situation. And so he didn't necessarily want to go about things the exact same way. And so here he is back in Cleveland. And I feel like a lot of times when these situations end up the way they did with Myles, it's because that respect doesn't go away. And it seemed like with Micah and Jerry Jones, there just wasn't the respect still there.
Yeah, and it feels like this is like a life raft for Myles, right? And I think, honestly, I don't want to be hyperbolic in this, because I think a lot of people, forgive's not the right word, but forgave Myles for that whole thing. But the way that
forgive him on Sunday if he sacks Joe Burrow.
Right. Totally. He'll be totally good. But after seeing what Micah did, you can really, that's something that you can actually believe what Myles says. Like, hey, you can take all the other stuff with a grain of salt, because he did say a lot of stuff about the Browns. However, he never acted upon it, right? Micah Parsons, like you said, sleeping on the table, the nacho thing, the call me thing, like all that stuff was intentional. And Myles saying he didn't want to do that out of respect for, his relationship with Cleveland, the Browns, everybody on his team, his teammates, I think is pretty cool. And that's something I think you can actually believe what that he says, because, we saw what the alternative was.
Well, and at the end of the day, he got that deal because he's expected this time of year to show up in a big way, make an impact on games. And I think he plans on doing that against a team and a quarterback, by the way, that he has his most career sacks against, 9 against Joe Burrow. And if he can do that on Sunday, not 9, but if he can bring that same pressure that would be cool, but I don't think he's getting 9. If he can do that on Sunday, though, and continue to add to that total, certainly a room for the Browns to win. Will we pick the Browns to win? That's the big question. We will talk to you guys leading up to the game on Sunday with our official predictions. We'll also have a piece out for you at Cleveland Browns Roundtable, where we will share our thoughts on why we think the Browns could win, or if the Bengals are going to win, why it's going to happen. We'll see if we're starting off the year on a high or with a loss. And we hope you guys will keep following along with our latest, as we're excited about the season being here. And we'll be sure to keep you in the loop with all things Cleveland Browns with Cleveland Browns Roundtable.